I bought the radio at a garage sale about 3 months ago. It was one of those old, bulky tabletop sets from the 1950s, all cracked wood and faded dials. The old man who sold it to me said it didn't work anymore, but for $5, I figured it would make a good decoration for my den. I remember he said, with a little chuckle, "Just don't turn it on at night." I laughed along with him, thinking it was just a joke. When I got home, I cleaned it up a bit, wiped off the dust, and set it on the shelf near my favorite armchair. That evening, I had a couple of beers, watched some TV, and headed to bed around midnight. That's when it started. At exactly 3:07 a.m., I woke up to the faint sound of static. At first, I thought it was just the TV left on in the living room, but when I got up to check, the screen was black. The static was coming from the radio. It was on. The strange thing was, the power cord wasn't even plugged into the wall. I stood there for a moment, half asleep, staring at the crackling old box, wondering if maybe I was dreaming. But when I reached out and touched it, the surface was warm. Too warm. Without thinking much of it, I picked it up and placed it in the closet. Maybe it had some old battery or something still active, although that didn't make much sense for a radio this old. I closed the door and went back to bed. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I opened the closet. The radio was silent. Cold. Dead as it should have been. I shook my head, chalked it up to a strange old piece of junk, and went about my day. But that night, the same thing happened. 3:07 a.m. The static woke me again, and this time, it wasn't just white noise. I could swear I heard voices, whispering, faint, as if 1,000 people were murmuring at once, just below the surface of the static. I stood at the bedroom door, listening, feeling a cold knot tightening in my chest. It wasn't the TV. It wasn't my phone. It was the radio. Somehow, it had moved. It was no longer in the closet. It was sitting on my armchair, facing the bedroom. Now, I don't scare easily. I served 20 years in the Navy. I've seen my share of weirdness. But that night, every instinct told me, do not touch it. I backed away, closed the bedroom door, and sat on the bed, listening to the low, crackling hum on the other side. The whispers continued for hours. I didn't sleep at all. The next day, I took the radio out to the backyard and smashed it with a hammer. I pounded it until it was just splinters of wood and shards of plastic. Then I threw the mess in the trash and rolled it to the curb. Problem solved, right? That night, I slept easy until 3:07 a.m. The static woke me again. Faint, persistent. I sat up in bed, my heart hammering. There, on the armchair, was the radio. Whole, untouched, humming softly. The whispers were clearer this time. They were calling my name. The next few days were a blur. I tried everything. I threw the radio in the lake at Miller's Creek. I drove it 50 miles out of town and left it by the side of the highway. I even buried it 6 feet under the old oak tree in the woods behind my house. It didn't matter. Every night, 3:07 a.m., it would be there, on the armchair, warm and humming, calling my name through the static. I stopped sleeping. I stopped leaving the house. I pulled the batteries out of all my clocks, smashed the watches, anything that could keep time. Maybe, I thought, if I didn't know when 3:07 was, it wouldn't happen. But my body knew. Every night, my eyes would snap open at the exact time, and the static would greet me like an old friend. Last week, I finally snapped. I took the radio and drove out to the abandoned mining pits about 20 miles north. There's a shaft there that drops straight down into the earth. No bottom, they say. I threw the radio in. I waited. No sound, no echo, gone. I drove home, shaking, Barely able to breathe, I didn't even go inside, just sat in the truck until the sky started to lighten. For the first time in weeks, I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. That night, I dared to hope. I sat in the living room, dozing in the armchair, TV playing some late-night rerun. I almost laughed at myself for ever believing in cursed radios and ghost whispers. Then I noticed the static. Not from the TV. Behind me. I turned slowly. There, perched on the shelf by the armchair, exactly where I first put it, was the radio. Whole. Pristine. Waiting. The dial slowly turned itself, and from the speakers came not whispers, but a voice. A clear, deep voice. It said just one thing. It's not the radio that's haunted. I'm writing this now because it's almost time. I know what's coming. I know what they want. 3:07 is only a few minutes away. And tonight, I think I'm finally ready to listen.